Hello? Hello? Oh man, I guess your mic isn't working. That's all right. I'll just do all the talking this time. Hey, welcome to Wake Up Call, Part 1. The topic today is James Randi and the truth about psychic abilities. And I'm going to do several of these little videos to cover some of these really common topics to save me a lot of typing where I can just pop a link in there and be done with it. And of course, Randy's at the top of my list. And if you're watching this, I'm sure you already know who he is. So I'm going to cut to the chase here. And I know how a lot of these people are who leave comments on these videos. They don't even watch the entire video. They just pause it, put some stupid comment and leave. So while I have your attention here, I wanted to put a few strong points at the front here. Okay, so first of all, let me just say Mr. Randi lacks the credentials and the integrity and the experience in regard to psychic phenomena for his opinion to even matter to me. Okay? So, I don't care what Randi thinks. And two people I know and trust say they made the appointment and went down there and passed the preliminary tests, and after a while they were just politely asked to leave and told they'd be in touch, and they never heard from the Randi Foundation again. So, and I can find thousands of books and documents and other forms of evidence supporting the existence of psychic abilities. So, how much evidence can you gather suggesting that Mr. Randi is even equipped and qualified to analyze psychic phenomenon? Or how much evidence do you have that suggests he has $1 million to give away? This is just crazy, stupid comment. And psychic abilities have been and continue to be studied and scientifically validated by doctors and scientists with impeccable credentials, using state-of-the-art equipment and abiding to strict modern experimental protocols. I mean, there's no debate as to whether or not psychic abilities exist. So if that's your point, you just simply haven't done your homework. When people ask about the Randi Challenge, it just tells me that you have done no research, you have no personal experience with psychic abilities, and you like to just have your truth spoon-fed to you by some celebrity or newscaster or authority figure of some type. And it's because you've been lied to and indoctrinated your entire life. So now you're incapable of producing an original thought. I mean, it's sad. Or, using critical thinking and unbiased independent research to discern truth for yourself. You think you have to hear it or watch it or read it or something. And that's not what this channel is about. This is for, I've got tutorials that'll help people learn how to do some basic telekinesis, at least enough for people to know it's real. But oh no, don't bother watching the tutorials and invest in a few weeks or months practicing to see if it's real. Let's just barf up some stupid stuff we've heard and pass the burden of proof on to somebody we can trust, like a professional trickster. I mean, come on. We're smarter than that, I would like to think. But anyway, it's sad that I even had to make a video about this, and it's sad that this is the #1 question I get on my channel. But anyway, here it is. And whether you hate me or love me, you're liable to at least learn a little something if you watch the entire video. Alright, so here it is. Here's the video. It seems a large portion of the population thinks humanity is awaiting James Randi's validation of psychokinesis before we can believe in it. Despite the mountains of evidence from far more credible sources with people with impeccable credentials have amassed over the last 100 years, they can't seem to find any of that information. They're all waiting for some retired magician's opinion. And you've heard the phrase, if all you have is a hammer, pretty soon everything looks like a nail. Well, all James Randi knows is illusions, so everything he sees appears to be an illusion. And anyway, I just want to address this and get this over with because there seems to be a lot of hostility when it comes to this. I mean, people get really mad, boy, if you don't, if you can't do the $1 million challenge, then you're a liar. And a lot of this lashing out at me is actually a manifestation of your self-loathing. And I'll explain this a little later, but I want you to know I'm not mad at you. I'm trying to help you. This is tough love. It may seem like I'm being mean to you or something, but I'm not. I mean, in the long run, you'll be glad you watched this video. But in essence, we are at war with enemies we cannot see and for reasons we do not fully understand. And it's not a war on drugs and it's not a war on terrorism. It's a war on the evolution of human consciousness. And this war is being waged by means of deception and the suppression of truth. And the people who are trying to suppress this knowledge like using words like pseudoscience and non-conclusive evidence. You hear that a lot. Anything to discredit the findings that are contrary to their false paradigm. And there's much need for conformance among the scientific community. You know, they all kind of have to believe the same thing because, boy, they're claiming they have absolute truth. So, you know, you can't have any variance in what is absolute truth. This is why researchers who come up with things contrary to conclusions are belittled and ignored. And if they persist or become too popular or something, they're often, you know, fired or disbarred or even killed. So I'm kind of sticking my neck out here, exposing the truth about psychokinesis. Anyway, when it comes to psychic abilities, the top spokesman is this retired magician named James Randi. And he has never and will never admit publicly that psi is real, because it's his duty as a controlled opposition to debunk any and all legitimate demonstrations. I mean, it's a brilliant plan, really. Yeah, you openly offer the reward, but always test applicants behind closed doors, and those who pass the preliminary test are just sent on their merry way. And the world assumes, you know, we have no winners. And unless, of course, maybe you're a well-known psychic, then they may offer you money to fail on camera. At least that's what I think is going on. Of course, I can't prove that. That's based on testimony of two different sources that I trust that say they actually, you know, got in touch with them and went down there and passed the preliminary test, and they were just shown the door. So that's all I have to base my opinion on, really. But anyway, and the $1 million reward is just stupid. You know, offering material wealth to people who are spiritually advanced is like offering a lifetime supply of meat to vegetarians or something, you know. Most people who have developed their psychic abilities have overcome materialistic greed and realized that the monetary system is actually a means of enslaving humanity. So the last thing, you know, truly spiritually enlightened people want is a whole bunch of money and attention. And then critics, of course, they always say, oh, well, you know, if you don't want the money, just donate it to a worthy cause. Well, in terms of spiritual evolution, which is my primary goal, the end of the monetary system, aka slavery, is a worthy cause. And putting more money into circulation is like trying to extinguish a fire with gasoline. Okay? Can't get it through your head that there's more to life than money. Lots more. Ugh. And this Randi guy, I mean, Randi is like, he's like those scientists and doctors and whatnot that work for the tobacco companies that stand up there in court and testify that the, you know, tobacco is not a carcinogen and all this malarkey. And the scientists that tell you, oh, fluoride is good for your teeth, and or the person who transfers from Monsanto to the FDA and approves everything that Monsanto goes through. You know, oh, it's safe to eat genetically modified food, and Roundup's not a neurotoxin. You know, he's one of those people. That's who Randi is. He's that doofus telling you global warming is your fault. Or, I've got the only true religion, and all the other religions are false. You know, he's that guy. All right, you're hanging your hat on that guy. Okay, this is the kind of guy we're talking about. So don't give me the Randi card anymore, please. But anyway, let's get to the heart of the matter here. So whenever I tackle a subject, I usually do the old who, what, where, when, and why thing. So who are these people who believe in Randi and think that I have to prove something to Randi before it's true? These are the kind of people who compare learned knowledge to acquired gnosis. My findings are the result of true skepticism and debunking, you know, real independent research and personal experience. I'm not going by something I heard. I'm telling you about something I've experienced. The definition from James A. Conrad, he calls him a frontier scientist, you know, a pioneering researcher employing scientific methodology in attempt to make discoveries at the outer boundaries of known science, okay, like where people have not gone before. You know, history rewards the bold. You know, there's a lot of people telling the Wright brothers you can't make a flying machine. Okay, I got plenty of Randi people, and the fact that you think I haven't heard about James Randi, you know, over millions of views, and you think maybe somebody hadn't mentioned it before, just, compounds the fact that you're ignorant. Excuse me. It's kind of a one-sided argument here, but you'll have your chance in the comments. You can type whatever you want with no rebuttal, because I'm going to say what I want to say right here and now. And then you can type whatever you want, and I won't dispute what you say. Just, you can have your turn. This is my turn. So my point being is, you don't have to believe. I'm providing ways for you to experiment and discover the truth. You don't have to just gobble up somebody else's truth and regurgitate it and act like it's your truth. You can find the truth for yourself. Thousands of people, self included, overcome nescience just by using the methods I shared with people in the tutorials. They can discover firsthand that psychokinesis is real. You no longer have to depend on somebody else to tell you if it's real or not. But if you're unwilling to abandon your little belief systems and spend at least a few weeks practicing some basic telekinesis maneuvers, you have chosen a path of ignorance. Okay? Sorry, but that's exactly how it is. The acquisition of truth always requires some thought and action of your own. Nobody ever just hands it to you. So, who are these Randi fans? I'll tell you who they are. They're victims of a lifelong indoctrination process that's hindered their ability to perform independent critical thinking, so now they have to rely on somebody else, and preferably somebody they can think is smarter than them, maybe somebody with a white lab coat or a title or a TV show or something. It's pathetic. But that's who they are. And what do these people want? They want truth. That's what we all want. But they're thinking they might find truth in a video. And that's not how it works. That's not at all how it works. And that was one of my first goals, was to prove this to people. I mean, boy, I kept it quiet for the first 6 months or so, and then I wanted to start proving it to people. And if you're considering doing this, as in demonstrating this in a controlled environment for scientists or psychologists or something, you might want to consider the consequences of your actions. Because when you go to do this scientifically, they're going to have a protocol for you to follow, and they're going to want you to be able to do the same thing, repeatedly, over and over, despite your environment. And it's a proven fact that performing psychokinesis in your home or in a comfort zone or something is far more productive than when you try to perform psychokinesis in a controlled environment with spectators and whatnot. So, and you also have to keep in mind, let's say you succeed and provide some very useful knowledge and stuff. Well, that knowledge can be exploited without your consent, or it could be misinterpreted and used in other ways against you. Or if you fail, you're discredited publicly. So there's a lot of things to consider when you go trying to prove this. That's why I took the avenue of trying to teach this instead of trying to prove it. And I explained it to people, why people aren't rushing up there to do this for scientists and whatnot. You have to enter a different state of consciousness. And I compare it to sleep. Everyone can sleep, but can you run up on a stage and win $1 million by falling asleep in front of a couple thousand people in under a matter of minutes or something? Or can you lay down in a laboratory with a bunch of scientists around you and fall asleep? Oh, you can't? Well, sleep must be fake. This is the mentality of this whole Randi challenge thing. People don't even understand how psychic abilities work, yet they understand how they think it should work in order to prove it to them, until they add consciousness into the equation, and the fact that we're all interconnected and that we're creators of reality. Until they put all this into the equation, we can't follow that protocol. So if you're going to stick with that protocol to determine that psychokinesis is not real, you're not getting a holistic view of psychokinesis. Where can they find the truth about psychic abilities? Well, first and foremost, within. Truth does not have to come from an external source, people. Everyone possesses psychic abilities, and they can be discovered via introspection, self-mastery, and by making a few key changes in your lifestyles and belief systems, and sometimes your environment. But if you are of sound mind, meaning your left and right brain are balanced, and you're physically and emotionally stable, you can often discern truth from fiction just by using an equal balance of intelligence and intuition, and you can base some things on your experience. So, you have your own little truth meter inside if you just shut your brain up long enough so you can hear it. But ultimately, the absolute, indisputable truth about psychokinesis can only be discovered by personal experience. And once you've moved something telekinetically, your personal experience supersedes any opinion or law written down by the authority or believed by the majority. There's no way anyone can convince you otherwise. Truth is not in the eye of the beholder. Truth is unwavering, it's indisputable, and it's eternal. It requires no faith or approval of mankind. It's just, you know it. If you learn truth from experience, you know the truth. You no longer have to believe anything. So that's the what. They want truth. And I guess the next question is when? When will the truth about psychic abilities be revealed? Well, when the illusion of authority is gone and people no longer fear being ridiculed, or fired or killed just for telling the truth. When people can just swallow their pride and get off their butts and start pursuing their own psychic abilities and then share whatever they learn with other people. But ultimately, the absolute truth about psychokinesis can only be discovered or discounted after sufficient personal experimentation. After you've collected all the information you can find about how to perform psychokinesis and truly spend, at least a few weeks or months experimenting and practicing, then and only then are you in a position to voice your opinion or leave your comment on somebody's psychokinesis video. If you don't have an original thought of your own based on personal experience, spare me. We don't want to hear someone else's opinion if they have no opinion of their own. So I guess the next question is why? Why are these people even watching the videos? If you truly don't believe in psychic abilities, why are you watching psychokinesis videos? I don't believe in the Easter Bunny, so I don't go watching Easter Bunny videos. And I wouldn't even think of trying to debunk one. It's just stupid. But I think I figured out what it is. It's an imbalance of the left and right brain. The left, logical, analytical, male dominant side of the brain, and the right brain, the feminine and nurturing, creative, intuitive side of the brain. These people, they know intuitively that psychokinesis is real, so they're naturally drawn to the video. But then when the evidence is made available or someone tries to show them how to do it, they have to reject it because the left brain is just so dominant, it won't allow the truth to go through the filter. They watch the video and then they critique it based on their limited understanding and then pass the burden of proof on to some ex-magician. Just a little pat on their back. I'm so much smarter than these people who believe in this stuff. When deep down inside they know intuitively that it's real, and that's why they're there watching it. But on the flip side, we have people who just blindly believe in telekinesis based entirely on someone else's testimony or a demonstration they see on YouTube. That's from a right brain imbalance. That's not healthy either. There's actually a process for determining truth for yourself too. There's like a set process called the trivium. If you want to go around proclaiming you know truth, you better at least put it through the trivium and put in a little time and experience of your own before you go proclaiming that you have absolute truth. The acquisition of truth always requires some research and introspect and usually extensive unbiased personal experimentation to really be certain that you have found truth. Truth it's not your opinion. It's not something you believe. Truth is indifferent. It's indifferent to your beliefs and opinions. And truth is seldom complicated, but it is often elusive and sometimes unbelievable. And I realize the left brain is dominant in most people, and that's something we have to overcome. We have to convince ourselves logically that psychokinesis can even be real. But there is good proof out there, and from people with far better credentials than James Randi. There's a little school by the name of Princeton University you may have heard of, who has Dr. Robert John, who spent many years and gathered a database of empirical evidence on psychokinesis that clearly indicates the phenomenon is real. But one of my favorites is Dean Radin, the chief scientist at the Institute of Noetic Science. This guy has credentials that blow James Randi away. He's with the Department of Psychology at Sonoma State University, He was at AT&T Bell Labs, Princeton University, University of Edinburgh, and SRI International. I mean, this guy knows more about psychokinesis than Randi will ever know. He's a true researcher, and he's pretty open with his findings. I mean, you can find a lot of stuff right here on probably on YouTube about Dean Radin. But anyway, the proof is out there if you go looking for it. But that is not my intent. My intent is not to prove psychokinesis is real based on my demonstrations. If you came to this channel looking for a demonstration that's going to prove it to anyone, you're on the wrong channel. This channel is for three types of people, basically. It's for independent thinkers, seekers, researchers of psychic abilities, aspiring practitioners, in other words, people who want to learn how to do this and other psi-related abilities, and accomplished practitioners and my fellow teachers of psychic abilities. That's who this channel's for. It's not for people who don't want to believe or who are looking for a convincing demonstration. My mission is to provide free and simple and effective methods for learning psychokinesis. That's it. That's what I'm out to do. The demonstrations are there to inspire people, but the true goal here is to give you a means of finding out that it's real from experience. That's why I have the tutorials. And my goal, why do I want people to learn psychokinesis? Well, I want everyone to realize that everyone and everything is interconnected, so we can start working together as one. All is one. That's my battle cry. So, don't play your Randi card on this channel. We're above that. This is for people who have evolved their consciousness to a point to where they no longer need the opinion of someone else to determine truth. Okay, this is for independent thinkers and true seekers of wisdom. All right, thanks for listening to my lengthy rant. I was trying to do this in 15 minutes, but like I said, if you got something else you want to say about Randi, go ahead, post it down there below, whatever. I'm not going to comment on this video. You guys can have your say, and I appreciate you letting me have mine. All right, thanks for listening. Good day. God bless, and namaste.